Coming up next in the welterweight division, we have Sean Brady taking on Kelvin Gastelum. Gastelum was moving back down to welterweight. So he's went back and forth between middleweight and welterweight from his time when he got into the UFC from the Ultimate Fighter, which is where a lot of you guys know him from, Ultimate Fighter 17, and moved down to welterweight. A lot of weight miss, a lot of weight issues with him, including him just completely missing the scale, not even making it to the scale to weigh in, led to him moving up to middleweight. And now he's back down. I mean, lots of success in middleweight too, right? I mean, he made it all the way up to fighting Izzy for the belt, which is one of the greatest middleweight fights in the history of the promotion. Honestly, a very, very entertaining fight, great bout. And it's been a mixed bag for him since then, where it seems like Gastelum, he took some time off, he took some time to figure things out. He still seems to be figuring things out, in my opinion, where I think this is going to be an interesting barometer for him. And the big red flag I'm going to put up is the weight. So I'm sure you'll talk about the weight a bit too when you talk about him. But for Gastelum, he's fighting out of the Fight Ready camp. So he fights with alongside Henry Cejudo, who runs that Fight Ready camp, as well as Davison Figueiredo, who fights right after this. Can't wait to preview that one. Gastelum has been in the UFC for almost a decade. It doesn't feel that way. He's got high fight mileage, and that paired with him cutting down to 170 is the real red flags for me. I think Sean Brady is fantastic at one main thing, and that's getting his opponents down with some stellar grappling, some stellar wrestling, and then he's going to put you into striking positions you don't want to be in, where he's going to be ground and pound the hell out of you. And that's where Gastelum is iffy for me. I feel like Gastelum has struggled against the wrestling of Neil Magny and Robert Whittaker in the past, where Sean Brady's got that Renzo Gracie background. He's got a lot of different people that have fed into his style and fed into his camp. And Sean was due back a lot earlier, but he has had 2 canceled bouts due to injury, infections, whatever it may be. And with that full year off now, I feel like he is fully ready to take on this Kelvin Gastelum challenge, where there's just too many question marks surrounding Kelvin Gastelum heading into this one, as well as Sean Brady. I get the whole Bilal Muhammad piece where Bilal Muhammad knocked him out, but I don't know, man. I really like Sean in this one. What do you think?
Yeah, so we're on opposite sides of this one. There's definitely an avenue to victory for Brady. I mean, he's the favorite, and I mean, you summarized his game very well. Relentless wrestling. He's not too impressive on the feet, but he's continued to improve there. Like he got outstruck by Michael Chiesa, which is not a good look by any means. And then he got finished by Bilal Muhammad, which is also not a good look. But both of those guys were able to keep it on the feet long enough to where they were able to test Brady on the feet and really force him to be a striker, which is not where his bread gets buttered. And so if Gastelum can do the same thing, I imagine that Gastelum will have a lot of success because he's a better striker than Michael Chiesa. I would argue better than Bilal because Bilal just doesn't have power behind his fists, but neither does Brady. Brady's issue on the feet is really that he doesn't have power. The striking has gotten a lot more crisp. And against Bilal, he was able to crack Bilal. I say crack. He was able to hit Bilal clean, flush, with multiple different strikes. Bilal never was phased, and that's sort of the point, is that Bilal's been hit in the past and wobbled. He was never really in trouble at all, ever in that fight. He was able just to press Brady until Brady just couldn't take it anymore. Like, it was just too fast of a pace for him, where Bilal was just on the front foot, pissed about all the shit talk that Brady had, where it was a problem. And that's where I could see Gastelum having success, because on the feet, Gastelum is as fast as anybody with his boxing. I mean, it is as crisp a 1-2 punch as you'll see in the UFC. I mean, it is pow, like just 1-2 down the pipe, and it'll land clean. And if he does that, I don't think it'll take many for him to rock Brady or force Brady to be a very obvious grappler. And that's where, if it gets obvious, I mean, you mentioned his wrestling wasn't great against Neil Magny or I'm blanking on the other fighter, Robert Whittaker, but in general, it's been solid. Now, in general, solid wrestling does not really see much success against Sean Brady. So it'll be interesting. And that's where the X factor lies throughout his career or throughout this fight. But I think that Gastelum's going to be able to have a lot of success on the feet. He's going to be the bigger fighter in this fight. That weight cut, whether he makes weight or not, so long as this fight happens, he'll be the much bigger fighter, and he's light on his feet. The weight cut for him isn't an issue of, he's sick or he's injured or there's an issue. It's just he struggles to make that weight. He just does. And so we'll see if he does. He looks good. He's posted a couple of pictures where he looks good and thin, but we'll see. He's typically the smaller fighter fighting at 185. He has the chance now to be the much bigger fighter and see a lot more success because he struggled at 185. He didn't have that advantage, and as we've seen through that loss streak of Adesanya, Till, Hermanson, Whitaker, Cannonier, that really hurt him. And he fought a lot of really good strikers in that time. So it'll be interesting. Calf kicks could be interesting, but he doesn't want to get taken down. But really, I think that Gastelum's reinvented himself, and he's here for a second stint in the UFC, like a second run towards the top. He's only 32. He looked good in that Curtis fight, which was a close fight, but Curtis is good as well. I'm not a fan of Curtis, as are many. Many aren't fans of Curtis because of all his antics, but I've got to respect him at this point. He's putting up very good fights with top-level opposition. So I've got Gastelum. I think this is an incredible fight. And you've got Sean Brady, right? I've got Gastelum for a full unit at plus 115. You've got Brady. Are you putting anything on this fight?
Yeah, I'm going Brady for the full unit too. So maybe we just take a gentleman's bet on this one. But
you probably should just kill the bookie juice, as you like.
Yeah, kill the bookie juice. Although I do have, depending on where we do it, I would have the edge taking that bet. Both of us are taking a side on this one. I'm going Sean Brady. Rick is going with Kelvin Gastelum. And that's going to be a potential fight of the night, if I have to be honest. But keeping it moving here, we have the former flyweight champion, Davison Figueiredo, taking on Rob Font, Boston's own. Keep it locked in with us as we continue on with this bantamweight bout. Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Pilsners and Prelims, a UFC betting podcast by Happy Hour Sports. Just want to ask if you could like and subscribe to the video if you like the content that we're putting out, and be sure to stay tuned to what we have coming up in the future. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you on the other side.